Testing.
Alright, welcome guys to the Hear Me Out episode number 5, and the title for this is Fighting Game Acceptance in the FGC. I am your host, Mugen Katsuki, and of course you have the real host, which is the founder of Hear Me Out. You have Terrorisk, and today hopefully we'll have a good discussion. He will be leading in, of course, because this is his thing. And I will be playing some background footage with no music because, again, copyright reasons, so on and so forth. So, Terrorist, take it away, and we'll get this started.
Alright, welcome everyone, welcome FGC, welcome new Game Boy followers. This is T-Risk, and this is Hear Me Out episode 5, I believe?
Yes, yes.
Right, and I keep forgetting to say this every time I start the show. Hear Me Out is a talk show style podcast. We talk generally about specific topics that we normally don't speak about, or don't have the chance to speak about on the main podcast, which is on Saturdays. And yeah, this is for everybody to get into. So the comment section of the stream itself, and in the comments section on YouTube what's uploaded. So that being said, alright, so that being said, let's get started. And this topic is about fighting game acceptance in the FGC. Now what this really means is not necessarily like games like Smash Brothers, which is a big major one, but general, anytime there's a new fighting game, anytime there is a fighting game that didn't make it to a specific event, i.e. like EVO right now. So that's what I'm trying to talk about and trying to figure out just what is it that the FGC has, and like other people have in general, when it comes to their fighting games not making it, or a new fighting game popping up that was probably never seen before, or is just a brand new IP that is working on a new fighting game. And this also comes down to the heels of Smash Brothers, like I did mention, even though it's not necessarily, but it has to do with fighting games that are non-conventional. So, with that,
alright, I am back. Sorry about that. So, yeah, if you want to start asking questions,
yeah,
get into it.
The reason why I brought this one up is because, well, I know you're a big FGC guy.
Okay.
So I think you could best explain to me why this is and how does it happen when it comes to like a either a non-conventional fighting game like Smash is the big main one, or a new fighting game coming up and people just immediately get disgusted by it and don't want any part of it.
Okay, so let's start out slowly. Let's talk about the first thing you brought up with the whole Smash thing.
Unconventional fighting games,
right,
being part of the FGC.
Right, so if we're talking about Smash Bros. Or Smash Brothers, however you want to pronounce it,
right,
it formulated by Nintendo as a party game. It was nothing more than a party game. What I mean by party game is that it's more than 2 players, which consists of anywhere from 2 to 4 people. You have items, which basically intensifies the party mechanics to a whole nother level. You have multiple stages, and so on and so forth. It's supposed to just be casual fun. Then some group of people decided to break it down when it came to Super Smash Bros. Melee, and they took out all like the unnecessary stages, so it broke it down to probably four or five playable maps, disabled all items, and played it as if it was a conventional 2D fighting game, which in my opinion is kind of weird because you're taking away the base mechanics of the game and you're trying to make it into a fighter. And so happens we're in 2017, and for the past few years, Smash for the Wii U and Smash Brothers Melee has been in majors and even Evo for as listed as a fighting game. And to me, I wouldn't agree in such a sense that it should have been made into one. But again, people made it happen. They petitioned for it. They got what they wanted, and they're showing that it does take a little bit of skill to play the game and such a high level of play. I'm not hating on it, but I would not call it a fighting game. To me, it's still considered a fighter. Now, you stated another question about when new fighting games come out and how people get disgusted.
Let's hold off on that one.
Okay.
And yes, you bring up a very good point about Smash in general.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to talk about non-traditional and non-conventional fighting games in general as well. Smash is just the example that I brought up. Another example would be why is there besides the fact that they don't make it anymore, what happened to playing Fight Night and Virtual On and games like that? Those have the basic elements of what a fighting game is, but they are non-conventional. They're not traditional 3D fighters. Not all of them have a health bar, and not all of them have special moves made in the traditional sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like I see people hate on a fighting game that may not be the most traditional, and wonder what happened to you guys when these type of fighting games were around. Were these immediately hated as well?
That's actually a pretty good
question. Just in general, those style of fighting games that are not the traditional 3D fighting game, or the not traditional 2D fighting game, where it has elements of doing different things. I can't remember the arcade fighting game right now, but it had not necessarily platforming elements, but it had what Mortal Kombat X and Injustice had with its environment system, where there were environmental elements, so you could swing on on poles that are hidden in the air, and you could also run on walls or wall jump to do a special attack off of them.
Right.
And it has super bar, and it had meter, but would this be considered non-traditional at the time, because it kind of used a brawling system? Not necessarily there was items to pick up or health items, but it had elements that wasn't used in the Virtua Fighter style of 3D fighting and the Street Fighter style of 2D fighting.
I mean, at the end of the day, if you're comparing Mortal Kombat and X and say Injustice and stuff like that, it still is a fighting game at the end of the day, whether if it's a little faster than normal or if it's a little clunky where you have to input a shit ton more commands left square, down, X, or whatever. But for it to adding more mechanics as of jumping environments, grabbing people and hitting the actual opponent and stuff like that, it's just another a dynamic use of to use as an actual weapon in the game. I wouldn't mind it for many reasons, because it's not Like, you know, we just discussed, it's not like Smash Brothers. There's nothing to that point. And it has health bars. It has not a stun system in a sense, so it kind of changed that. You're still able to mix up. You still get hard knockdowns. You still get grabs. You just have like a little extra edge. And then when people get knocked off the screen, they go flying. They're doing all those types of shit, you know, depending. There was a couple of games in the past that did that, not to that crazy effect. But then let's put it like this. You can't really compare the game like how you would compare like Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3. It's nowhere near the same. You know, because let's take a look at that. You have super moves that will blow up planets, and you know.
Are you still here?
Yeah.
Because it kind of cut off for me.
No, I'm here. Hello. I'm here.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Yeah, so it's just like Dragon Ball Z, Budokai 3. Like when you're blowing up planets and it changes the stage dynamically. You also can use capsules in the middle of your fight to heal and power up your character that you're using. You know, there's a lot of games that did a lot of crazy things, but it still kept a perspective of a 2D fighter. It's just some people are not wanting for change. They want the regular Street Fighter mechanics. They don't want anything over the top. And there's a few exceptions where like Marvel got accepted into the community when, you know, it was doing like over exaggerated supers and infinite juggles and not touching the ground type of breaking mechanics. But people learn to love the game for what it is. It just sometimes, depending on who takes the initiative to make it the game, it will make it so. It wouldn't just automatically just become like the best of all time. Like when, let's say, see if we could use this as an example.
To cut you off, the fighting game that I was talking about with the environmental stuff was called Dragoon Might.
Okay.
For anybody that wants to look it up, I've seen things like that in that game. It's pretty much a normal fighting game besides that.
Okay. There's a lot of things, man. I don't understand why people feel like iffy when it comes for a new fighter. When it drops or whatever, they feel like, oh, I don't know if I should or should not play the game because I'm so conformed, you know, to playing Street Fighter and stuff like that.
Yeah, I understand for those that like will make their money playing these things. Sure. But if you're a guy that plays this for a hobby, why is it so hard to even acknowledge that it exists?
Yeah, that's true. And you know, a lot of people grew up on playing fighting games with Capcom. Like Capcom has made like a broad of fighters within the last 30 years.
Yeah,
and
it may not seem it, but that's definitely true.
Yeah, and a lot of people are just used to it. They're just conformed to only playing Capcom games. You have a lot of companies out there. You have Namco Bandai. You have Arc System Works. You have a couple of other companies that are kind of like niche in the sense, but they have made a shit ton of great polished fighters that we will have today. Like I could name probably a few, like Milty Blood was one of them. On the Night in Birth is another. You have what is that other game? I'm trying to remember now. It's a game that came out for the PlayStation 3. There's like a bunch of like anime characters. I can't really remember off the top of my head. Persona, that's another one. Can't really remember the name for the one I'm talking about.
Nitro Plus?
Do you have Nitro Plus? That's another one. You know, you got Guilty Gear, you got the Blaze Blue.
Bunko?
Yep, you got that. It's another one. And you just have a shit ton of fighters that people has never even seen or heard of before. Like, some people still to this day, they didn't even know that a Fist of the North Star fighting game came out.
Yeah, and it is amazing.
So
kind of busted once you get the hang of it. But it's amazing.
yeah, yeah, and there's like a shit ton of other fighters, like people, you know, it's Capcom, but you have niche fighting games like Rival Schools. Not many people knew about it until it got brought up on the Dreamcast. Some people didn't know about what's that game? It was on the 360. It was like a 3D fighting game that was made by Arc Systems, and it dealt.
Fantasia, is it?
Yeah. That's it. That game, and there's just so many other more that's out there. Whether if it's 3D fighting or 2D fighting, a lot of people just they populate or they conform to only go into what people want it to be. Again, it just takes that one person or that one group of people to blow up a franchise. And that's always how it's been.
My favorite non-traditional fighting games has been Fighter's Destiny.
Right.
And it is fun. It has a different system where it's more like I would say like actual martial arts where there's points involved.
Right.
And knockdowns involved.
Right.
And Fight Night is another, even though it's kind of a weird one.
Yeah, Knockout Kings,
not Fight, Def Jam. I mean,
Def Jam was a great game. Oh my god.
Yeah.
But it also became a party game when Def Jam Fight for New York came out.
Right.
People have iffy mixed feelings about fighting games, whether they choose to make it big or they choose to make it it's whatever, who gives a shit, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I agree. I will just be that one guy that will actually take a look at it before I condemn the thing.
Yeah, of course.
Before it even has a chance.
Of course.
And that's how I am with this new game I heard about that is based on the Million Author, I believe it's card game from Square Enix, a mobile card game.
Million Author Arcana. Oh yeah. I've seen that. I've seen it. It looks interesting.
Yeah.
It looks interesting, but again, I'm not gonna sit there and downplay a game until like I physically play. That's what I do with all fighting games. I give it a chance, whether if it's categorized as a traditional fighter, anime fighter, 3D fighter. It doesn't matter. Like if it's a good game, I'm gonna be like, yo, I will recommend playing like a lot of people was iffy about Kings of Fighters 14. And they didn't want to play it because it was not like 13. And
right.
A lot of people was like, oh, I don't want to do this. The graphics look like shit. The game might feel like shit. The game might not be good online and all that. But again, we live in a time and an era where everything is rushed. We live in a time where things have to be updated and patched. At least we do have several companies that are willing to stay with their community and try very hard to keep their fans happy. And they've been doing that very well. They keep updating their netcode. They keep updating the consistency of making it to the lowest latency possible, adding more mechanics, balancing it. And they always come out and they tweet the community. Yeah, fighting games, I don't even give a shit. They'll just be like, oh, the game's broken. Who cares? We made our money.
Yeah. And I'll give it to SNK's credit when it came to like why does it play like 13?
Mm-hmm.
They immediately came out and explained it in great detail.
Yeah. Yeah, yes it did.
They did want to. They wanted to make it slightly easier, but still a very difficult fighting game, and they wanted to take it back to its roots and take bits and pieces of what made King of Fighters the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I was like, okay, I understand. Not that I played 13, but this, if anything, this gets me more interested as a guy that played like 98 and 97.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what really gave me the interest involved to want to pick it up again.
Right.
And it is a rather difficult game, but it's nowhere near as hard as it used to be.
Right. Back then, it was way harder to
Yeah.
learn the mechanics, get your combos down packed. More, just in general, technique was needed. It's like, again, it's a very iffy topic, and a lot of people should, as a gamer that we are labeled as, you should at least give a game a chance. Whether if you're watching it on Twitch, watching a review on YouTube, trying out a demo, going to a friend's house and seeing it for yourself, at least give it a shot before you downplay and discredit for what the company has worked very hard to release a franchise for. Like, we even have a game called, what's the other fighter that I have here? On Steam. I don't know if it came out anywhere else, but there's another fighting game called Vanguard Princess. And that's a 2D fighting game where it has an assist character. Alright? You have games like that. You also have other fighting games out there that have like 3-on-3 battles. You have shell shading fighters, like if anyone remembers Rumblefish.
Yeah,
that was a very niche game that not many people accepted. But again, true fighting game fans will appreciate any type of fighter because it has its own dynamic element to it. But again, everyone is just so conformed to the big AAA fighters like Tekken, Street Fighter, as of now, Guilty Gear, Blaze Blue. What else is considered a top fighter now? Mortal Kombat, Injustice 2 when it comes out. Stuff like that. Marvel.
Yeah, and that's another thing. There was Tatsunoko versus Capcom at the time before Marvel came out, about maybe a year ago, and a year after, and I remember that game having maybe a few tournaments for about half a year and then going dark immediately.
Well, once Marvel vs. Capcom 3 regular dropped, Tatsunoko just got dimmed away because it was out for a while. Like, that game was out originally in Japan. Then it got released in North America with like a few extra characters, but they took out some of the licensed music because it belonged to Tatsunoko at the time. And, it was a great solid game for what it was, but everyone kept saying that it was like the beta version of what Marvel 3 is supposed to be. And when Marvel 3 came out, everyone jumped on that because it was, in a sense, more Americanized, and it was a lot more, it was a lot more familiarity to the roster and the controls. So a lot of people jumped towards that, and Tatsunoko was trying to stay alive in like side tournaments, and then it just vanished. So
I never actually seen it anywhere like a major. Just a lot of side tournament stuff, just to test the waters, really.
It was in a few majors. I'm not gonna lie. When the game did come out, it was in a few majors. Surprisingly, Justin Wong, Marn, and probably like 4 other people can say, like, to this day, like, they was really like top tier at the game, even though the game was like broken down to simplistic. I think it was like probably a 3 or 4 button fighter.
It was 4 buttons technically, and everything else was a macro.
Mm-hmm.
You had ABC, well, not ABC, but light punch, light, medium, heavy, and then assist.
Mm-hmm.
That was the main layout of the game, and everything else was just a macro or a dual button hit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Alright. But by the way, just to let people know, this is footage of Double Dragon 4. It is a relatively cheap game. You could get it on Steam and PS4 right now, and it is as hard as any Double Dragon should be. So I do recommend it.
Okay. I was reading about this game. I think it's $7.99
Yes,
if
it
people
is.
are interested in getting it. I'm not sure if there's two-player co-op. I heard rumors that they might be something like that where you play the game fully by yourself.
Doesn't have a actual online. You have to do it by share play. Otherwise, it's local.
Okay, so hopefully, if that is the case for both platforms, they'll make an update in the future because I'm pretty sure people want something like that.
Yeah, I'm hearing the Steam version might get an update, so look out for that at least.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. Moving on. Well, I guess this goes in part of what we were talking about. But do you think we will ever see more non-traditional fighting games in
Yeah,
general? And I don't necessarily mean like, oh, they're going to all make it to Evo, but just in major events or having their own major communities.
yeah, I think there'll still be a lot of those fighters still coming out because again, there's a lot of indie companies that are trying to make fresh new ideas for fighting games still to this day. It might not been featured as much, it might not been given enough publicity, but they are out there, and I would love to see what people come up with when it comes to fighting games in general because it can make or break the industry depending on like how it is and how it does it affect people. So
Yeah, I agree. It's a very damned if you do and damned if you don't situation. Because if you make it play like Street Fighter, the Street Fighter heads are going to be like, why am I playing this? Why can be playing Street Fighter? And if you don't, they're going to say, well, this game sucks. It plays nothing like a traditional fighting game does. So it's a very it's a very oh, sorry. It's a very it's a very difficult situation that I would say these developers have in trying to get people to play it, but also want to play it along with their big time fighting games.
right.
All right. So I'm going to call it my last question. This one might take a while, but what is a fighting game considered for you? How much of it has to be traditional for it to be considered a fighting game?
Well, that could be broken down in many ways, but for me, it would have to feature every possible game mode. In my opinion, it'll have to have an arcade for casual people or just people who just like to play a little bit of story to know what's going on within the game that they purchased. Of course, a versus mode where it has the option to have a button check, select, 3, 5 rounds, 7 rounds, whatever, time lock, no time lock. Training mode, I would like an in-depth training mode where it would show like either if they have like combos or move lists, it should show at least like a demonstration so people could get an idea of what it's supposed to look like to help people learn. Information like attack data, so it shows like hitboxes, frame data, how much damage it does, hit stun. A replay mode, a lot of people like to watch replays for YouTube video portions, Switch portions, stuff like that. Let's see, a broad of options for tweaking the game if you're playing it on PC or, sometimes on console. Online is a big factor for fighting games now. Online training is another big factor that a lot of people like that would recommend. A tournament mode where it's like a tournament style, like 3 out of 5 or 2 out of 3. And broadly, I would like the game to have at least more than 16 characters starting as an initial launch. And I would like the controls not to be too complex, but also not too simplistic. So people can pick up and play at a basic level. And then, of course, for the advanced users, they can just go into it and start grinding and becoming like a gearhead towards the game.
Alright. For me, it would be just about everything you said. As well as the game having difficult controls. Because we have seen fighting games go from 6 to 4 to even 2, depending on what you're even playing, and still be advanced. So it's not necessarily the buttons involved that you're pressing. For me, it's more like how you're pressing them, why you're pressing them, and when should you be pressing them.
Right.
And as long as the game can do that, it could be one button for all I care. It could be 2, it could be 4, it could be 6. It could even be 8, and still be a quality fighting game for me. Right. It doesn't necessarily need health bars. It doesn't necessarily need to have a special type of bar like how Guilty Gear Blaze Blue has technically a meter for bursts, or how Mortal Kombat X has a stamina bar. So it just needs to be different. It needs to be creative. Sure, you can have the traditional Ryu and Ken of the game, because that is how you get people in. That's how you get people to try a character for the first time. Someone that's intentionally easy to play and maybe difficult to master as well.
Right.
Like, I would say the only person that hasn't done that, as far as I know, or at least I can remember, is probably Virtua Fighter with Akira or Akira. I don't know how I pronounce his name right half the time.
You could just say Akira.
Okay. And hello, Megasonic X45 in the chat right here. And yeah, he is the poster boy. He's on everything. He's on the covers, and he is not easy.
Yeah, he's not an easy character. He's one of the most technical characters in Virtua Fighter.
Like second behind him, I probably would say is maybe Kyo Kusanagi or Soul Bad Guy.
As of complicated?
Well, they're not necessarily the traditional shonen. They have advanced stuff. And as far as Kyo is concerned, he's not even a shonen at all these days. He immediately changed that style.
Well, I mean, it's depending, because if you're playing with like Kyo Kusanagi, he's not a traditional shoto, but compared to like Kyo, and not using his last name, he's technically like a shoto clone, because he spits out fireballs, he spits out a shoryuken, he does like a little Rekka hurricane kick. So he has all the basic traditional stuff. Same thing with Iori, basic traditional stuff in that sense. But you have some patented characters that are difficult to play with depending on the game, that are the protagonist of the fighting games, and you just have characters that are just like easy pick up and play.
So yeah, that would basically be it for me, and just immediately look fun and be fun. Like if you can, honestly, if you can do that, while you may not have the FGC guys, you may have an entire audience of your own,
right?
And that's profitable in its own right. So I'm gonna call it a close for this. This was kind of a short one. I would probably do a part 2 on this, just to hear the opinions of everyone else.
Okay.
And maybe have more talk with the viewers as well. So with that said, is there anything else do you have to say on this topic?
Just basically try to broaden your options when it comes to playing games in general, because I know there's a lot of people that's are kind of iffy about picking up a new title, whether if it's a fighting game, shooter, RPG, whatever. Don't hate on it until you read up on everything you need to know about the game, watch videos, watch trailers, watch people stream it, because we live in that age now where social media, live streaming is a huge factor within gaming now to see more insight than you normally would, because I grew up in an era where I read probably 1 or 2 lousy articles from like GamePro magazine or Electronic Gaming Monthly, and I have to chance it whether if I have to go to like Blockbuster, my local video rental store down the block from my house. I had to chance it, and some games I got were fucking great, and some games were just pure shit. So you should be very grateful that you have all this, tech for you guys, for your new generation of gamers to get more of an insight of what you want to pick up before you actually buy it. So just be careful on what you get, and just don't badmouth something until you try it, because you might end up liking it.
That's food for thought right there, and I would also agree to that. And people just take the time to look at something before you condemn it. Like, for me personally, like I don't like Mortal Kombat, but to say that it is the most horrible game I've ever seen, or horrible game I've ever played, that's probably not true. Like, hate is a very strong word. Don't just throw it out there, just fling it around and like make it lose its meaning. If you hate something, you hate it. So I'm gonna call it here. And Nelson, thank you for hearing me out. Thank you, Megasonic, for showing up and hearing this out as well. I'm sorry that it's a bit of a short stream. I'm not sure if you caught all of it, but you can catch it on the New Game Lore channel, which is below /AlexLexus on YouTube. You can go on Facebook and Twitter and check us out on Twitch as well. Nelson, will you be streaming anything today or this week?
Most likely I might. I have to check in my schedule to see how that's gonna play out. I don't know if it'll be directly on this channel. I would have to see, depending, because we supposed to have a podcast a few days ago, but again, it's just nothing but regular PSAs of like games launching. Really not much tech news or gaming-related news. So we'll see. I'll let people know.
I'm just letting you throw out your stream or whatever out there in case you were. Okay, everyone, this concludes this episode of Hear Me Out. This is T-Risk and Mugen signing out. Thank you for watching.